Hey, guess who's back? Steve. Steve found his way home, guys.
I
Uh,
was gonna
we've been
try to
we've been
find something funny to say when you started there, but I'm still on vacation mode.
yeah. You seem a little I don't know, not quite yet booted up good yet. So
Well,
that's no biggie.
so I mean, you've met me. You know how tall I am,
Yeah, you're a little
and
short, but
well, so we went to the Black Hills, and my dad's from there, and actually I lived there briefly when I was really young. But I so I've been there, but there's always fun things to do, and this is one of those trips, especially with my kids being a little bit older, and I there's always some of the touristy trap things you wanted to do as a kid that your parents would never take you to. Well, now being the parent, I get to decide which ones we were going to do,
yeah.
and so we did some of those, and my youngest really wanted to do some. He wanted to learn gold panning, and there was a mine just outside of Keystone, South Dakota. We were staying, and it's all just a tourist attraction now. It's hasn't mined since before World War I, and so we went on that tour. Well, that mine was made by um, German immigrants who apparently were shorter. I'd like to consider them maybe dwarven height. There was barely anywhere in that mine that I could stand up straight. And, of course, they'd stop and pause and talk about things in the worst spot ever. So I'm like, ducking, half kneeling, half ducking. And I'm going, okay, well, this is interesting, but
Oh,
I hope it's not too long. So we got out of that. Then we did some mine gold panning with their they you know take a bag of pay dirt or whatever and load it up for each pan. And two of the boys wanted to do that, and they did find a few flecks in there, but of course you're bending over doing that. Well, then we also wanted to tour one of the caves, and we had done this before, but it was when the kids were really really young. And unfortunately, I guess fortunately, but unfortunately, national parks have become very popular in the past 10 years, and you really have to plan ahead. You have to book ahead. So we were looking at taking a tour, and we didn't get our tickets for the tour until midpoint through the week, which meant the choice for us was to take the lantern lit and historic entrance tour, which I thought, hey, this is cool. We haven't done that before. Well, that involved a lot of ducking, crawling, climbing up and down these rickety ladders that took twists and turns while holding a very poorly lit LED lantern. So,
well,
so I'm a little sore from all this ducking and crawling in small spaces underground on our vacation. So, yeah, I'm a little out of
well.
it.
You know, I honestly, I would feel bad for you, Steve, if it weren't for that comment that you made about some creepy short guy in a truck picking you up. But since you made that comment about me the other day, I'm getting a little pleasure from the fact that your Neanderthal, like, I don't know, Sasquatch height has caused you inconvenience. I'm getting a little enjoyment from that. So.
Well,
But
I'm glad
at
I could.
least you didn't get stuck in a cave, and we didn't have to see you on the news. You know, large guy extracted from cave or whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah, there were points on that cave tour. I was like, well, this is it. I'm just going to curl up here.
Yeah. Well, good evening, everybody. Happy Father's Day to those of you to whom it applies. But what's up, Brian? You've broken your machine. I mean, why'd you do that for? So, I'm a little. I see he's saying it is grinding when he boots it up, but it's kind of hard for me to understand exactly what's happening there. It almost sounds like he's got auto home turned on and it's trying to home and it's slamming. That's what it sounds like to me. But gonna need a little more information.
Yeah, random occasional grinding noise. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Gonna need a little more to go on there, Brian. Maybe you could do a video or drop it in the group or something where we could look at it. But But yeah, that doesn't sound good. Mine only does that when I forget that I moved it by hand and try to send it somewhere. That's usually when I get a grinding noise. Happens in the middle of the cut. Is it the? Did you say it was a P20, or is it the new L2?
I believe he's got a P20. So
Okay, if it's the new L2, let's. I don't really want to talk about that right now. Uh, but the P20, the grinding noise, basically the only thing it could be would be a belt slipping. I would think, unless you've got a axis motor trying to come apart.
um, yeah, I mean usually a grinding noise is a belt slipping on a gear, or it mechanically ramming into some object. If it's in the middle of a cut, I wouldn't think he's going very fast, so I wouldn't think it would be slipping unless it's getting some sort of resistance. So he did mention, I think, did you say there was a video on the post? So we might have to jump out and look at the Facebook group to see that. But
Let me see if I can find it right quick.
although Larry's got a good point there. If it's got a loose connection on a stepper motor, that definitely could cause intermittent connectivity, and that can cause a bit of grinding.
Okay, I found this video here. Ooh, it's loud. Okay, hang on, and I. Oh, that doesn't sound
How's-
good at all. Mm.
Hi, Sharon and BF Beer Buddy. Happy Father's Day to everyone else as well. Thanks for being here on a Father's Day holiday.
I was trying to watch the video. It looks like it's doing it on both axes, though. That's not. It's definitely not good. We'll have to do some investigating on that one. But it looks like it's doing it on both axes. I was hoping maybe it was just one, but apparently it's not. All right. Oh, 6,000 range. Somebody's wanting to spend some cash. Steve, you're more up to speed on the CO2 stuff.
Oh, let's see here. Good recommendations for a good CO2 machine in the 6K range. Well, you might be into Thunder Laser territory there, and they are a pretty decent reseller that offers support here in the U.S. And has a good variety of machines that you might want to look at. So it's kind of going to come down to, yeah, they start at 7,400 for their CO2, so maybe not. Um, Outside of that, uh, yeah, I mean, you'd probably be looking still at maybe the Ohmtech or Monport. You can get one of theirs less expensive than 6K for sure. If you can bump it up a little bit, you can get into the entry level Thunder. But I guess the question would be if you have any size requirements. That would definitely change kind of what we're looking at as far as quality, because you can go with a little lower featured machine, but get a bigger space if you're okay, kind of giving up some of the features and the maybe some of the higher quality support.
Yeah, 6K is still out of my range right now. So, Brian, I watched that video a little closer, and it's actually only doing it on right to left movements. So I'm thinking it's going to be something in the gantry. Check the nuts that are inside the gantry, and make sure you haven't had one of those like come loose on you or something. It may be that it's getting in a bind, that your wheels are either sticking, or maybe one of them has came loose and it's binding. It's almost what it sounds like, best I can tell from the video. So I would definitely take that gantry, flip that thing over, look in there, and make sure everything's freely moving the way it's supposed to. But yeah, Sorry about that. He had me with that. He had me trying to do a diagnosis. But I
No,
thought at first it was doing it on both axes, but it's not. It's only doing it when the head moves right and left, which makes me think it's something in the gantry. Whether it's something's came loose, maybe I mean it could be anything from steppers worked its way loose, or belt, or one of your nuts may have came loose on there. But I would definitely be looking up under the bottom of that gantry for the problem. Assuming the machine hasn't been moved around, I mean, I wouldn't think you would have gotten it out of square because it looks like it's pretty well positioned inside that enclosure.
hmm
Yeah. Hopefully, guys, if everything works out, hopefully I'll be getting to play with a little bit of a fiber laser pretty soon. I think Steve may as well if it works out. Too early to call
yeah,
it just yet.
there's some communications going on, and so we're hopeful, but until tracking numbers are confirmed and deliveries made, you just never know on some things. But it does look like we may have some uh, what they were like 20-watt fiber lasers.
Yeah, 20.
So it's
Hey,
nicer than the gantry based modules that are sitting there at 2 or 3, but not quite the 60 to 100 watt that some people are enjoying playing with. But it should be a nice setup if we can get them in and start playing with them.
well, I figure it'll be a good introduction and a good learning tool, and the principles of operation are the same. So that'll let me know if I'm gonna be able to use it or if I'm gonna be terrible at it or not. So
Yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
Jack and his 100-watt
Cut the
laser.
Jack cut the floor out of his building with that. But
So
yeah,
yeah,
that
they're
Steve
bouncing around a little
has.
bit.
Well,
Um,
shoot, I'm trying to hit the same one you are. I think.
Probably. Let's see if we got it here. Yes, Victor. Longer is coming out with a 30-watt laser, and they're coming out with a whole new laser frame, their B1 series. I did a live stream just before I left on the B1 20-watt, and they do have a 30-watt that's coming out as well. And as a matter of fact, if you want to see kind of some of the initial stuff on it, Steve Makes Everything is a channel that I know both Clack and I have talked with in the past, and he was seeing some weirdness with his B1 longer that's a 30-watt, and noticed that I had done the live stream on it. So we bounced back and forth about some similar issues we were having. Got them worked out, and he posted his video while I was on vacation. I'm trying to wrap mine up this weekend. Um, it is a pretty nice laser. Has some of the nice features that we look for in kind of the mid range. It doesn't quite have the motorized Z axis that some of the new ones have, but it has a lot of the safety features that you look for. Um, One of the ones that I'm interested in, and I haven't been able to test this yet, but I'd like to, is a lot of them have that flame sensor detection. Well, this one's supposed to have a flame sensor detection that then moves the laser head back to home instead of just stopping everything and sitting there. If I can, I'd like to test that because that's a nice feature that not only is it going to stop what it's doing, but it gets the laser head hopefully out of the way. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, right now I think those lasers are going for right around $9.99 for the 30-watt, I believe. So it's a little bit cheaper than some of the others. And so far, am I playing with it? Once you get past a couple of the setup issues that are a little weird, it's performing as a pretty decent laser right now. With one caveat that I'll go into my video on the air assist setup. But yeah, I've had their I've got their 3D printer, their resin based one, and so I was familiar with the company, but this is the first laser of theirs that I've been able to play with, and I so far I'm kind of liking it. Kind of a mid range laser there. So
Well, Gillette nailed it there. I had some people ask me the other day, and I'm trying not to throw rocks at anybody, because I really, really do like the company. But currently, guys, I don't know if you've noticed, but yes, my Acer L2 is not in my enclosure. I've been using the Whizmaker, which I'm really, really sure that that thing is basically a P20 in disguise. I've been using it a lot because the L2 has had some issues. It's sick. It is intensive care, and I'm trying to give Acer a chance to work with me and see if we can get it worked out. I don't know exactly what happened. It could be something I did. I don't think it was because I used it one day, came out here the next day, and it started having problems, and it just went downhill. I've emailed them. I've let them know what's going on, sent them some video of it and everything. So waiting to hear back. And like I said, with every new product, there are going to be bugs. So I'm not throwing rocks at Acer. Uh, Steve's got one, and his is fine. Other people have got them; theirs are fine.
Well,
So I don't know if mine's just snake bit or what. So we'll find out.
well, mine I got assembled just before I left, and then hadn't powered on until what is it yesterday or the day before. You were asking me like, hey, any chance you could send me the config specs? That's the
Yeah.
first time I powered mine up. My module hasn't seen. I mean, the laser hasn't fired yet, so it's been turned on. It's been connected to Lightburn,
So you don't know if it works or not.
but I haven't run anything
Mine
with it now.
mine worked great for several weeks, and it just I don't know, something happened.
But I will say between the Acer L2 and the
Is that
IKEA,
is that better, Brian?
they're very very similar. I mean, you look at the two from 6 foot view, you go, these are the same laser, until you start looking at some of the details. Where I will say that it looks like the Acer has a little more refinement. Um, Certain things, even like the touch panel on the front, both say they're magnetic. But if you set the IKEA where that part is elevated, and you set the magnetic display touch panel onto it, it'll fall right off. I mean, it holds it there for magnetism, but doesn't have enough to hold it in. The IKEA one, or the Acer one, actually has both stronger magnets in it, and it has kind of like a little bar piece that it sits into. Um, I also noticed that the Acer has limit switches on both ends of the axis, so it will stop it before it grinds at the end in both directions. Whereas the IKEA, if you overrun its dimensions, it's going to grind because it doesn't. It might have soft limits, but it doesn't have a hard limit through a limit switch. So I'm just seeing a couple of smaller, refinements in the Acer, which I like. Hopefully yours is just a fluke. And
Yeah,
I
like
and
I
I
said,
hope to start using mine
I
more.
can't rule that out because it was working and it was working well, and I was really loving it. And then when it didn't work, I thought, okay, well maybe I got my configuration wrong, and so I had Steve from the other Steve from Steve Makes Everything. He sent me his configuration because he had an L24, but I didn't ask for screenshots. So when he sent it to me, I uploaded it, and I was like, well, did I change anything or not? So that's why I wanted you to send me screenshots to make sure the controller was actually accepting the changes that I sent in. So I got the one from you, checked it, done it. It didn't work, so then I used the one from Steve Makes Everything, and it's still not working. It's almost acting like it's getting low voltage because the steppers are making a weird noise, but they're not moving. It's almost like there's a click, 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 click. I can feel a clicking in there, but they're not moving. I checked the voltage of the power supply. The power supply appears to be fine. I swapped the power supply for another one that's the same identical power supply, and it's not. It's still not working. So I'm thinking that something on the board, maybe some kind of circuitry that controls the output to the steppers has went out on me because I did notice the other day, and you're familiar. I'm sure you're familiar with the smell. I recognize the smell from my days of working on CB radios back years ago.
Hmm.
That smell of that wire didn't go there. Well, I came in here the other day and I smelled that, and it was right after I'd put my new computer in, so I was a little concerned because, this is not a cheap computer. Uh, and I could never figure out where the smell was coming from. And then when I went to use the L2, it didn't work. So by deductive reasoning, I've assumed that the genie in a bottle that got out was from the L2. So
Now, do you recall if you left the laser on, powered on?
no, I don't. I
Okay.
don't ever leave them powered on always because when I shut down at night, I check everything.
Okay.
But now, to that, also keep in mind, I've got two UPSs in here with surge protection. Also, so I've got
Well,
one that sits on my desk, and then I've got the one under the table by the big computer.
the reason I ask is if the controller's on and delivering power to those steppers, they can overheat just by sitting there, especially if they're in the mode where they're trying to stay, but there's some mechanical thing pushing against them, and they'll actually overheat just parked in some machines. I've
Well, I
noticed
mean,
that on a couple of my older
I
CNCs.
can't
So
promise that that didn't happen, but typically no, I don't leave them on because I check the enclosures before I walk out to make sure I've got them off. So
yeah.
unless there was an urgent something.
Well, and that's that's one of my arguments on some of these lasers, like the Longers one. You turn that thing on, the fans turn on. You know that thing is on, and
Yeah.
after a while, if you're sitting there not doing anything with it, and it's not like fully enclosed, you're like, okay, I got to turn you off because it's just
Yeah, yeah,
it's annoying.
a little bit of a noise is a good thing. I will say
Yeah,
that the Acer, you can have the Acer, the L2 powered up, and you'll never know it. You need like a red light over your enclosure to let you know.
yeah.
But that, like you said, if that's what happened to mine, and that's a possibility, then that may be something they need to address. But now, like I said, it stays 70 something degrees in here now because I got air conditioning now, Steve.
It, well,
But
but even so, just those motors parked with power on, that
yeah,
can overheat them by not being used, and especially in more hobbyist grade machines with stepper
yeah.
motors versus the servo motors, that constant kind of just trying to hold their position will cause them to overheat, and that could burn out a motor or burn out a controller. And I'm not saying that's what it is, but it's something to be mindful of for people
Yeah.
with their lasers, is to make sure that they they don't leave them on just sitting idle for too long, because that can actually do some harm to them. So
Yeah. ETLC, I'm pretty sure I can speak for Steve when I say neither one of us have tried the Rolly yet. It's not something I'm against, but the opportunity has not afforded itself. Jeff, yeah, I just been having some fun with the alien back there since nobody noticed him the other day. I figured I'd put him on the TV. But I got like all kinds of cool, stuff on the TV back there. Steve started it because he had his TV set up. There
well,
he is with.
and okay, maybe I got to do this. Uh, okay, no, let me find it first. Uh, along the alien theme, um, I so at work I have a mixture of people. I'm kind of middle of the pack for age in my department that I manage, and so I've got some younger people, I've got some older people, and the joke is always whether people will get the the references. I'll just call them references to older type things. And so I shared a picture. Let's see if I can bring it up here real quick. Uh, in that group. Come on.
I saw a picture for a second, Steve,
Yeah,
and
it disappeared on me. Did it come up yet?
yeah,
There we
there you
go.
go.
I shared this picture with a quote that said, what was it? This is important. This means something. Let's
And
see
he
how
didn't
many
get
people
it.
understood that.
He didn't
Some
get
of
it.
them did. Some of them got it. Some of them understood it. So we'll have to throw that out there, see if people are understanding that reference as well. But
Yeah,
your hint is it might have to do with aliens.
yeah. Close Encounters, maybe.
There you go.
Field Knock. I probably messed that one up. I think you have both as well, don't you? Don't you have the eights or out of
I
stack?
I do have the 8 I was going to do some playing with it with the L2 maybe. Um, and so I physically looked at the 8 I haven't actually run it and run tests on it. But I also have the Atom Stack.
Yeah.
You
Well, I
you have
will put
both,
it to
right?
you this way. Yes, and I've used both. I've used both quite a few times, and I will tell you now, Acer and Atom Stacks rotary setup with the chuck and the roller. The only difference I can find is there's a slight difference in the color of the paint. That's it. I mean, they
Yeah.
work exactly the same. They have the same parts. They have the same functionality. I'm sure there's probably a price difference as well, but as far as the air assist is the same, I mean, it's basically a different color paint. And I'll show you for example. Um, Gotta get my stepping stool to get this stuff off the shelf here. All right. This is the air assists. Well, no, actually, this is not the one for the Atom Stack. Never mind. This is the Acer and Acer. Well, I don't want to unplug my rotary, but I got videos on it because my one rotary, my Acer rotary, is in the enclosure. The Atom Stack's right there on the shelf. But yeah, guys, they are almost identical. The materials used and everything, the color is the only big difference that I have found. Both of them work really well. Cabling is the same. I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those. I will tell you this. I have a RA2 Pro or whatever that it makes that thing painful to use once you use an Atom Stack or an Acer. It makes that RA2 very painful. And I think Steve would agree with me. Why is that still in the box? Because you don't use it. I know why.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Rotaries are something I occasionally use. So it's not something that I leave hooked up a whole lot. But yeah, it's definitely better than the RA2 Pro. Probably a little bit better than the Ortour. Although the Ortour works really well and it has the angled head. With both the Acer and the Atom Stack, you also get that roller rotary option that's separate. So I think as far as the value of having that option, that's good. So really, I think it comes down to a price. And if you just go off to their main websites, although who knows which Atom Stack website is the official one, but I'm seeing on atomstack.com, they have it on sale for $230 right now, and at Acer the regular price is $290, but they also have different coupons for getting things off. So, I would agree with you. It's between those two, whichever one you can find at a reliable reseller at the best price, you're going to get the same quality functionality out of them. So.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't had a problem with either one of the ones that I have. Now, I haven't done sets of 80 tumblers since I've had them, but I have done, when I've done the eggs, I've done a few tumblers. I mean, I've run both of them through the paces, and as long as they hold up long term, I'm happy with either product. So, like I said, it would come down to, like you said, which if you can get a good deal on one. That would be the determining factor for me, is which one's cheaper.
So he's asking, will they work with the D1 Pro? As long as you can get the wiring right, yes. I just don't recall if they have an adapter that lines up with that. But if you're handy, you'd have to
take the stepper. You'd have to actually take the plug loose from the stepper to do it. Because the stepper has the same plugs as
Well, that's how they do it.
Steppers.
Oh, wait, isn't that how they do it on the Pro versus the V1? They don't have.
I don't know. I thought my Pro I thought still had the little plug in for their rotary. They had the X Tool specific.
Yeah, I'm not so sure.
But I haven't used the X Tool with the rotary since I got any of my nice new ones anyway. So.
But yeah, if you remove it from the stepper motor and plug the rotary in there, it's just making sure you get the right plug, and they're all fairly identical. From there, it's just dialing in the steps per, well, they call it millimeters per rotation. It's technically should be steps per rotation to get your sizing right. But.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think both ones that I got came with the black cable and the white cable, which allows you to. As a matter of fact, let me go grab the Atom Stack and I'll tell you.
Yeah, I felt like that's something to consider. The support you're going to get from either Atom Stack or Acer. You want to make sure you're comfortable with getting that support if you do run into some issues. So
Yeah, see the Atom Stack. This is the cabling for the Atom Stack. It comes with this black tipped cable,
hmm
and also it comes with this white tipped cable, which I'm guessing is the crossover because usually the only difference is like two of these wires are reversed. So it comes with two cables. So that would be the only reason I would know. I would think it would need it. It's a little dusty. Would be for like the X2. I had a problem with my shop vac this weekend, so it blew dust everywhere. But that's the Atom Stack version, and it is like I said. There's not 10 cents worth of difference between it and the one for the Acer. I like both of them. Like I said, the parts are interchangeable. That's one thing I do like too. Is in case I do break one, I can just put this one in enclosure Zilla and go back to work. So I do like that. But this is the cable it comes with, and it comes with, of course, the same little rollers, and all those little add-on pieces are identical to the ones that come with the Acer. So yeah, it's not a bad rotary at all. So far, this is my favorite. I've got two others over there that I bought and I have not used. They're flat rollers, and I bought them and I have not used them since I got the KR set and the Atom Stack. I need to put those things on Marketplace.
yeah, I think the where the rollers do well is on the longer devices. So like if you're going to do the whole baseball bat thing, that might be a reason to keep one of those around. I think in my video, instead of a baseball bat, I did like a big mailing tube that I use for storing airplane plans. I got them up there, but I'm not going to dig it out. But so, yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, I think you could pull off the baseball bat with the chuck if you put one end of it in the chuck and then use that little roller wheel on the other end.
Yeah,
Because once you get there, because it's not really holding the weight, and that thing's robust enough to hold the weight of a baseball bat.
yeah, but I think if you got the rollers set up right, you could just literally set it down in there and go. But
Well, that's why I don't use anything but my enclosure Zilla now, because I just hit the button, drop the bed down, flip the switch, set the rotary out, and boom, I'm cooking with grease.
right, but you still have to clamp it
So-
into the chucks, is what I'm saying. With the baseball bat
Yeah.
on the rollers, you could literally just set it down onto the rollers and go. So
Yeah, you could, but I like the chuck also keeps it from shifting as it turns if you go too fast, because that was one of the few times that I would get away from 100%, because a lot of times I didn't want to have to go fast enough to offset it, because I was afraid I'd get some shift if I spun those things too fast. So, but yeah, I like it. So far it works really well. He's asking for links. Did you happen to see one? Amazon's got probably the
yeah, I haven't checked
best
Amazon
bet.
price yet.
Let me check it out right quick. I got too many screens going. Wow.
You could get
You can get the chuck by itself.
you can get the Whizmaker branded one that's just the same.
Do they have a Whizmaker one?
Yes.
Wow. It looks like 269, 259, about 259 if you're wanting just the chuck. They've got one on here for 218
Yep.
for just the chuck.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
that's-
218 for
that's
that one,
kinda
other
cool.
269 for the Atom Stack.
But yeah, that's it right there. I'll drop a link if you're interested. But this is just the chuck, and they have other kits and so forth. But I mean, Amazon is if you're one of those folks that doesn't like some of the shipping woes that comes with ordering directly from overseas, Amazon is your friend. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Sometimes I order from Amazon just because, in order for it to be in the Amazon, especially if it's a Prime, you're looking at like 2 days and it's here. And sometimes I'll pay $20 more just to make sure I don't have to wait 2 or 3 weeks.
And and I know they've been in the news right now for a lot of returns and such being a business issue for them, but they're very good about making it right. If you have a problem with your order, rather than having to deal with um, random manufacturer or reseller on stuff. So it's sometimes worth that. Like you say, maybe you're paying a few bucks more, but you know that Amazon is going to get your money back if it's not right. So, but yeah, budget. The RA2 works and it works well. It was one of the first ones out. The biggest issue, um, I shouldn't say issue. The biggest thing that it doesn't have that the others have is that to get your angle, um, you have to shim it with something. You have to set up a jig or whatnot. Whereas these others, you can adjust the angle of that rotary, and it's not belt driven. It's direct drive stepper, or at least the belt's internal to the mechanism if it is. So there's just some nicer features to them, and they are a little more robust by themselves. They are physically bigger and heavier. So there are some good reasons that I would recommend them over that. Even though I think right now you can get the RA2 for just a bit cheaper because of a sale. I think right now they're $299 minus 120 or something like that. I would still say
Yeah.
spend the extra 30 to $50 on the Atom Stack or the Acer version of it, or Wizmaker through Amazon, as I just came
Yeah, I
across.
would be curious to see the Wizmaker one because the machine performs well.
I there,
So
I mean, take your Atom Stack uh, rotary, wipe off where it says Atom Stack, and laser engrave the logo for Wizmaker, and you've got it. The only difference might be that I think they're including some standoffs for the laser itself. Those round feet that are on the bottom. It looks like they have those, but it's it's almost like, I mean, they're offering all of the same Atom Stack accessories and the IKEA accessories. So they've got that shark's tooth table, and they've got the camera, and they've got the weird enclosure. So I mean, it's you know what's going on there.
there you go, Brian. Brian missing the beard. But yeah, now if there is a problem, I don't guess my audio is synced up or having a problem. It's not on my end. I'm watching the audio volume. It could be something to do with Facebook or YouTube. We're actually streaming to both right now, so sometimes on the live there is a delay, but then when you go back and watch a replay, they'll have it all tuned up and fixed. Zoomed in more day. Oh, well, is it too distracting for you back there, Steve? Brian? Too much. Brian says too much distractions.
Is it? It's
I mean,
it's my little airplane up there, right? I can't even point at it. I turned it around so it wasn't facing the wrong way.
my wife said I do look like a Jackie Chan movie to her too. Is it synced up on your end, Steve? Because you're getting the direct feed off of it.
I think so.
Wait a minute, let me check something. I was doing screencast earlier. Let me turn that off and see if that changes it. How about now? Did it change anything? Brandy, text me. Let me know. I did have the Wi-Fi module enabled, but it's because I was screencasting to Alien over there earlier.
Um, so North Alabama Barbecue is asking about speeding up an intricate design on a tumbler. I guess that would depend a little bit on what you're doing. Generally, I, I there's not a whole lot you can do as far as the speed on that, because with tumblers, even in the chuck rotary, I like to have it basically do the whole thing in one pass. I don't want it jumping around a lot. That's when you start getting, lines and possible, missing areas and such, missteps and such. So, if you have material and can do a material test just to see where that sweet spot is to get your power and your speed the highest, where it's going to give you the right, um, you know, removal of material. That's about the best I can recommend you do on that. There are some ways on a flat object where the gantry's moving that you can kind of play around with flood fill or offset fill and see if there's things like that work. But I don't really recommend having it use those modes on a rotary.
Well, we're just going to wait and see if the audio straightens itself back out because I haven't changed anything. So, don't know.
Did you turn
Is it
off?
still doing it?
Did you turn off the Jackie Chan mode?
Well, I didn't turn it on, so I haven't done anything to cause it that I'm aware of. So we'll just hope that it works itself out.
All right. Well, so
Uh,
so if people have more questions, please definitely put them out there. One funny
yeah,
thing I found myself doing on vacation is, of course, as we're stopping in various places, you go to the gift shops and such, and everybody's got laser engraved something or other. And it was funny seeing certain things. One of them was like these pocket knives, folding knives that had names engraved on them, and of course they're only selling them for like $6.99. And I'm like, okay, this is why you can't compete with it. But two things. I mean, I'm looking at them. They're made in mass, and they don't care about quality. And I'm looking at half of them where the engraving's dark and light throughout the whole name and such. And I'm like, that's something I would toss out as more of a craftsman and a try to customize product for people. I wouldn't send that out, but here they would. Um, the other thing that the other thing and I should have taken a picture, but I didn't want it to be too obvious. We were at the Mount Rushmore gift store, big patriotic symbol of America and such, and they have these laser engraved um, Swiss Army knives or such, and one of them said something of like um, something USA, proud to be American and whatnot, and I flip it over and it says like made in Vietnam, and I'm just like the irony of this whole thing just kind of struck me, and the fact that as if I was to try to make that same thing, I probably couldn't have bought the blank pocket knife for the price they were selling it for. So all I took
yeah,
from that was, I know you've been doing a lot of stuff for these craft shows or the Peach Festival and such, selling these things. Um, but you're focusing on regional things, and I think that's the biggest thing I can tell people is get inspired by these things, but make them unique to something you can offer that you're not fighting everyone else for. Find that more niche way that you can make it more specialized to what you do or specialized to your area, and I think you'll have a better time with it. So,
yeah. It's the stuff that I do. I try to figure out what people around here will buy, and I hear people talking about my pricing. I hear people talking about this. I hear people talking about that.
I was just
But
joking,
now,
man.
one thing you have to consider also is that the cost of living and the cost of things here is different than it is in, say, California or Hawaii or somewhere like that. So it is different. But I try to, because I got a lot of friends that do laser engraving as well, and so if they come up with a product that they do and they're local, I try to stay away from stepping on that. Because like I said, there's enough room, there's enough stuff that I can come up with that I don't have to start trying to do things that they do. I can come up with other stuff. So uh,
Yeah, I've heard it, it's good to get connected with, I know you're part of like the Merchants Association, your local Merchants Association. I know here in town, they have kind of a makers group and such that they try to help out each other. And I've even noticed, well, just you and I, for one example, but even us, reaching out with Steve Makes Everything. And I know I've reached out to Rich from LA Hobby Guy and others. When we're running into issues and such, we try to help each other out. And I think that goes a long way in, hey, I don't want to compete with you. You know, let's help each other be better. You're doing your thing. I'm not going to step on your toes. And that's, I mean, it's impossible to get everybody on board, but the more you kind of build those relationships with some of the people in your space, whether that is on the internet and YouTube or maybe your local area, those long term efforts are going to help not only you you build that respect that you're not going to step on each other's toes. But then someone comes to them and says, "Hey, I'm looking for this." Say, "I can't help you, but I know who can."
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so kind of going back to, I know there was a couple of people asking about, how to advertise and get started. Um, it's reaching out to things like the communities, and sometimes you got to approach some of these craft fairs as not selling a lot of product, but selling yourself, marketing, being out there so people know you exist and get to know you and see your stuff, because maybe they'll come back and buy something later. Um, and But the same thing online. Then you can get people to help out there that kind of know you, and start seeing your stuff. So it's more than just putting stuff out there on TikTok or whatnot, because yeah, you're going to attract the people who are doing the same thing. You got to get that out there a little bit somehow. So invest a little bit of your first few shows out in public or in local Facebook groups as advertising, and not necessarily expecting a return on investment right away, but more long term. So
Oh yeah, and this like it's kind of like this, guys. Too, another thing, the first two or three events that I did, and I'm not a professional at it. I'm getting better. I critique myself every time I do an event. Uh, but the first couple that I did, it was it was depressing. I mean, it was terrible because I didn't know what people wanted. I didn't know what kind of stuff I could take. I was unsure about my pricing. I was unsure about what I should pay. I knew that I needed to do it. I wanted to do it. And I was like, the only way I'm going to learn this is to just get in there and get my hands dirty and do it. So, but I will say, as far as getting started, if you have like local businesses in your area, Chamber of Commerce, if they have meetings, merchants associations, anything like that, get into those groups and meet those people, because a lot of times those businesses, it may be a restaurant that wants some coasters or something. I mean, and you can get some small jobs. And you can ask, I don't know if he's still in here or not, but you can ask Klein. I started sending him work, and now he's got repeat customers off of work that I sent him because I didn't have time to do it. But I have a couple of big. Somebody was saying earlier that cost of living was less here because I have air conditioning and you don't. But truth of that is, I have commercial customers that I build for that spend a pretty good bit of money with me every month, and I reinvest that so that I can stay out here and keep up with my jobs. So I have different revenue streams when it comes to that. As far as the stuff that I sell to these companies actually does help support paying the light
you
bill
know,
and putting in air conditioning.
and you mentioned um, getting connected with other companies and such. I may have missed an opportunity. Um, I had thought about doing this. So when we went out to the Black Hills, I was looking at places to stay, and we've done a lot of camping, but I didn't want to drag our tents out there, and I didn't want to necessarily try to find a camper. So I was looking at either cabins or Airbnb, VRBO type things, and we ended up finding a an Airbnb. It was a duplex where the family was renting out the other part of the house, and they had it done up as a cabin, really nice. And I thought, well, this is great. And I was in the middle of making that coaster caddy project. I thought, hey, maybe I'll make this and I'll engrave some coasters and give it as kind of a thank you to this person for letting us stay at their place and such, even though I'm paying for it. Um, and I just ran out of time and didn't do it. Well, we get there, and one of the things I'm noticing is like, man, they really don't have any coasters here. This would have been the ideal thing. I could have put their logo on there for them and just left it as a gift, because it would have cost me. I mean, what are Slate coasters, like 80 cents maybe?
I was fixing to
Um,
say like $20 a sleeve.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it would have cost me maybe $5 to $10 in material to make a coaster holder and four coasters for them. And who knows, that could have developed into something where they're like, hey, we'd like to have you make a few more things. Um, I'm just saying that in the sense of, look at some of your advertising costs in giving away some product. Find something that you can do without too much time or effort, but that kind of shows off what you can do in a customization for them, and just give it to them. And
Yeah. Oh,
it,
I still give away a lot of stuff.
yeah, I've got friends who went up to realtors and say, "What do you give for closing gifts?" And they say, "Oh, we do this." I said, "Well, what wouldn't you like something more personalized? I can do this for what you're spending on that." And they go, "Oh, wow, yeah, I'd love to do that." So, I mean, you have a similar experience with your weird southern stove cover things that I think are fire hazards and would burn places down. But
Hey, but I've
uh,
got
anyway,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 9 that I'm supposed to build this weekend, so that's I haven't got them done yet. But Phil Knott wants to know the cabling that comes with the Acer. Is there a female plug that can use with the X tool? Is that
this is this is what comes with the Acer.
yeah? And I don't think it's the X tool plug though. I got lucky and was able to snag the one. Well, cable
So
what can we use with the X tool? Yeah, it's the same question we had earlier with the black and white cable. You'll just have to
yeah,
remove it from the stepper instead of using that little port that they provide.
it basically comes with these two different. It's focusing on me and not these plugs, but there we go. It comes with the male ends and the female ends, and they just have different pinouts, is what these two are. So that's
And if
what
you
comes
use the
with it.
wrong cable, the only thing that'll happen is it'll go backwards. I found that out. If you put the wrong cable on there, it'll go backwards, which you could fix by flipping it around. So, well, whatever.
So yeah, I mean, technically, any of these stepper-based rotaries that are using these little Nemus 17 motors, even if they don't have the plug for it, if you are good with, you know, either swapping wires or making your own plugs, you could technically make most of these work with it because they're gonna work fine. They just take a little bit of adapting to the pinout of the board that's driving them. So,
Yeah.
but that's the box it comes in, nice and big
So you
compared to
got to
the
get to
RA2.
work, Steve. You got too much stuff sitting in boxes over there.
Well, I got to keep it in boxes, otherwise I lose track of it.
All right, guys. If you hadn't already, like, follow, subscribe, thumbs up, all that good stuff. You know how it is. The algorithm loves it. So y'all help us out and smash those buttons if you hadn't already. That way we can let the algorithm know that at least y'all aren't totally miserable, and that Brian hadn't ran anybody off yet. Uh, and also to all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day, of course. I got my Father's Day supper, or whatever you want to call it, last night. My daughter had to work today, so and then the rest of them been in there all day today. But I've been working. I work too much. I need to really back down. But I'm trying to get ready for the jam. And I know I showed this to you earlier, Steve. But let me swap these cameras around here. But that, guys, is the culmination of yesterday and today right there. That is my displays. And like I said, I critique myself anytime I do an event. And I looked at the pictures I put out of my booth the other day, and it really offended me seeing some of these ladies and some of these people that had these cool displays. So this weekend, my goal was that I would have plenty of stock and I'd have some cool looking displays. So I'm really happy about the Chihuahua with the dog tag around his neck, because I was trying to figure out how to get it across to people what that was. So I cut
Yep.
me a little Chihuahua out of some wood, made him a stand up, and he's wearing one of my little dog tags there. So that's what I've been working on. Been hard at it.
And you bring up you good a good point. When you go to these shows, it's good. You know, if you haven't gone to one and you're thinking about doing it, find one, go to it, and see how people are setting up things. See what people are looking at, stopping and buying, and that should hopefully give you ideas. Again, try not to like just copy it, but let that inspire you for what you are doing and how you're displaying it as well. And that kind of rolls into this one. You know, keeping it local makes it condenses your audience, but it also condenses your
No.
competition. And unless you have something that is super unique or you've really sold yourself through a process that people know you for, competing nationally is tough if you're doing the same thing everybody else is doing. Then it's just a race to the bottom as far as price. Um,
Yeah.
I was able to do a lot of national sales when I was selling these model airplane stands, um, because it's a niche market and no one else is doing them. And so, yeah, I was able to sell a lot of these nationally. But since then, other people have made their own versions of it. And I kind of said, I could spend a lot of time and energy and revise it and try to get up a better price. But also the cost of materials were going up. So I just said, I'm good. Let someone else run with their idea for a bit, and I'll come up with something new. So that's why I say
Yeah,
keeping it local. It's easier to customize it to things that area people will appreciate. It's easier to customize for someone that's local than the issues of shipping back and forth and such. Um, and
yeah,
you looking. I mean, if you're on Instagram, use your local tags. If you're in on Facebook, look for those for sale groups or crafter groups or I think there's even one here. It's like a made it local, like it's meant for like locally handcrafted type things. There's people in your area that want to buy handcrafted things made in their area that maybe are towards their area. Um, there's a lot of lakes here in Minnesota, a lot of lake cabins. I've seen people just take slate coasters and they'll take that area lake and say, "Hey, I'll make these coasters for $5 a piece, and for an extra $5, I'll put a star where your cabin's at." And they sell well. It's something I should probably do.
yeah. Well, Charlie, I think you have, or Jenica, whichever one it is that's that's saying this. Oh, I actually, and I know it sounds weird, but the Clack Shack started off as my Facebook page that I used to sell stuff locally. Because I got in with some people and I was just doing engravings for people. I had a few, a wedding venue that knew that I did that kind of thing, and so when somebody signed up to use their venue, they would tell them, hey, well, if you want laser engrave this, or you want a sign to put out front or something like that, I got a guy. And so they would send me people, and then of course word just spread, and eventually it got to where the Facebook page was that was my hub. I mean, that was where everybody went to. They'd message me and be like, hey, I heard you do this, or hey, I heard you do that. But I actually started out uh, with the Clack Shack, and the reason, if you look at my logo, there's a sawmill blade in the middle of it, is because it was mostly stuff off the sawmill. It was, mantelpieces. It was rough cut lumber for accent walls. It was, that kind of stuff. And then I started making like home decor stuff, and I got to the point to where I was like, you know what would be really cool is if this shelf I built, if I could put like established 2020 or whatever on this shelf, that would be really cool. And so I started looking into lasers, and then I found this really like strangely tall guy with a beard that made a video about an X Tool product that had just been released. And I watched that video and decided to order one, and then it just kind of blew past from there. So I started out locally, and then the only reason I even ended up on YouTube at all is because I was trying to help people fix their machines and doing videos to demonstrate how to do things, and doing videos to demonstrate to people how to fix their sawmill, how to make sure that the mill cut flat, and how I dry my lumber, and how I do this and how I do that. Go back and look at some of those YouTube videos of mine from like a year and a half ago. You'll see I did not come out of the gate as a doing YouTube. I was my wife, and I won't tell the story because she won't like me telling it. But my wife was like, why are you recording yourself cutting wood?" And I was like, "I'm trying to help people learn how to work their sawmills." And she's like, "Okay, whatever." And I made a joke, and I was like, "You're gonna eat those words when YouTube starts paying me." And she just kind of rolled her eyes and was like, "Okay." So that's actually how my YouTube channel started. It was accidental, completely accidental. Uh, who was it that said they were near me? I keep trying to find that comment. I can't figure out who he is. He said he's two counties away. I saw that comment, but Larry Hardiman. Uh, I don't know where you are, Larry, but uh, hello, neighbor. Glad to see you here. But freebies was a big one when I got into the laser engraving. Giving stuff away, doing stuff for businesses, and just go in and say, "Hey, look, I like your business. I eat here all the time. Here's a laser engraved, cutting board or coaster or whatever." buy yourself some cheap blanks that don't break the bank, and just start donating stuff. And word will travel. I
Hmm.
actually give away probably as many keychains at events as I sell, because every little kid that comes by there looking at the laser going, "Oh, that's neat. I really wish I had one of those." And I'll have two or three kids sitting there watching the machine work, and I wind up like, "Oh, well, here you go." And I'll That's why if you look on my rack, there's a whole bunch of Clack Shack keychains, because I give those to the kids, and then the kid takes it home, goes, "Mama, look what I got." So that's a way of that's a way to get yourself out there. Just give stuff away. But yeah, Brian, Maymay's actually the one that, like I said, I had a YouTube channel and it was pathetic, guys. It was bad, and Maymay was the one that told me, "Hey, you actually, you need to do a little more work on that, and do some research." And so, yeah, she kind of nudged me in the right direction, I think, on that. And I still love it, but to be honest, guys, I enjoyed I had a ball this weekend making all this stuff back here, like all that junk right there. I had a blast, and I hate I didn't video everything, but it kind of crimps my flow sometimes when I'm trying to video. So sometimes I just want to get in here and just be creative and just do stuff. So I didn't get to video a lot of it, but tell Larry to move. Hey, Brian, you say that, but I've actually got a guy that is he's in the next county north of me, and he does a lot of like police memorabilia, like fallen officer flags and stuff like that. I send him a lot of work because people call me because I'm in law enforcement, like, "Hey, do you do these?" And I'm like, "Well, no, I don't do them because my buddy does," and I send them to him because he's got a CNC and an X Tool D1. So there's a good question Josh has got. How many how many how many machines have you solicited, Steve?
Um, hmm, I think honestly, X Tool was the only one I really pushed hard from my end.
Yeah.
And that was before. So this rolls in with the question 808's asking is what was the second laser each of you bought, which is interesting. Um, I bought, well, my first machines were actually CNC routers and then 3D printers. As far as lasers, I bought a CO2 laser first, and it wasn't until a year and a half, 2 years ago. I mean, I had been reached out to by some of the early diode lasers. I'd have to go way back and look, but this is back when they were like 2.5 to 5 watt machines, and I was doing more CO2 content. And they said, "Hey, are you interested in these?" And I kind of looked at them and went, "Why? I have a 60-watt CO2 machine. Why would I want this little diode thing that can barely cut paper?" Um, but then when Xtool came out with their 10-watt machine, um, I was actually a friend of mine who said, "Hey, what do you think about these?" I was like, "Well, they look interesting, better than the others." And he was like, "You want to split one with me?" I'm like, Maybe." So I actually just went out on a limb and reached out to Xtool about some of the stuff, and then we came up to an agreement on a machine that way. Um, but other than that, it's more been a lot of other companies reaching out to me based on my past content, saying, "Hey, we like what you do. Would you be interested in looking at this machine or the other?" So um, honestly, I don't. There are things that I'd like to look into, but I know I'm too busy, and I'm at the point where I've also just been kind of like trying to get away from too. There seems like there's a new machine every other week coming out, and I've been trying to be a little more choosy about what I'm looking at because I want to get more into depth on actually using them, just rather than going over here's a new machine and what it does. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
I don't proactively reach out to too many right now, um, because of that.
Well, I can honestly say that any machine that I've been sent, they emailed me. They were the first ones to contact. And I've turned down stuff because they either want to send you a script or they want you to sign some agreement saying that you won't say anything bad about it, or whatever. I've turned down several, and I'm just like you, Steve. I've gotten kind of to where I'm afraid people are tired of seeing machine, 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 and so I've tried to kick it down a notch on that. Unless it's something that, let's face it, guys, if somebody wants to send me something that's really cool and that I want, that I'm willing to go buy, then I'm probably going to take it. And that's the case with the two things that I have coming now. Actually, I've got three possibilities. They're things that I actually am interested in and that I want. So, we're going to see where that goes. But yeah, I don't reach out to companies and do that either. Should I reveal, Victor, my secret for making cursive one piece,
I think you should.
Steve? I mean, you know what my secret is, don't you? You remember?
Well,
It's
did you learn cursive in grade school, or because I don't think they're teaching that anymore in some schools.
well, they call it. It's not necessarily cursive, but in Lightburn you can actually, if you get the right fonts, you can actually do cursive. Let me get my Lightburn launched here. Uh, but depending on what setup you have and what fonts you have, you can do some cursive. Let me get this over here. Da, da, da.
Brian, I like the way you're thinking with that, but I think maybe something a little bit smaller would be more manageable than a motor coach review. But
Yeah, that's all
yeah,
you there, Biggin.
the amount of traveling I have been doing this year, that could be interesting.
Yeah. All right, so y'all ready to look at it? You're gonna be able to give me the screen. I've had to hide mine. I've had
It's
to
all you.
I've had to move it. All right, well here we go. Let's get over here to Lightburn. All right, I'm just gonna share my whole screen with you guys. Depending on what character set you have, uh, you may actually already have cursive. My keyboard's been being weird today. I think it needs new batteries. You may already have cursive characters in your library, and if you do, it's just as simple as selecting the right text. Now, if what you're saying is like if it's a name, and let's say like right here, if I wanted like this to stay together, because I'm trying to do like a long name, is that what we're referring to, or is it just to get the letters to stay together? Because if that's the case, then you've got to go in here. If you're trying to make this one burn, like, and you want it to stay one piece, then your options are either A, create you a little, like a base for it, so to speak, and go in here and align it to where you want it. And then you can just kind of make it sit on that. And then once it sits on that base, then you can go in here and combine the two. And when you do that, if you turn this into a cut, now it's going to, well, if I can click it, now it's going to be one continual cut and everything's tied together there. So that's one way that I do it sometimes, especially if they're wanting something like that, but then they want a design under the bottom of it, or if the text is supposed to be attached to the top. That is one way of doing it. The other way that you're gonna have to do it is you would need to go in and edit it. So you're gonna have to select it. You're gonna want to make sure that that's a path. Once you've made sure it's a path, then you can go in here and you can edit the actual nodes, and you basically can redirect. Now I'm just doing this rough, guys. You can redirect that, and then you can go to this one, and you can kind of redirect that a little bit. And I'm just doing this rough just as a demonstration. I'm not trying to make this look pretty. And then go to that one and kind of tie them all together. And then when you come in here, get out of that mode, come in here and put them all together. And now they're connected. Now that's sloppy, but for the sake of time, guys, that is the two approaches that I will use when trying to put text together. So there you go. There was that. So I hope that was informative. Hope that answered your question. That's the two approaches. Oh, and there's also this software called Cricket. If you don't have appropriate fonts that you can like use, but you'll need a screen grab software. Need the word yelling. Oh well, okay. Well, yeah, because the Y is not connected. Well, you're probably going to want to do some node editing and just try to tie that thing together. Or a lot of times, oh, I forgot the third approach. Stand by, stand by. Light burn. Need light burn.
Inception.
All right. So need the what was the word? Crap. Yelling. Yelling. All right. This is keyboard. Work with me here. This is one more thing that you can do. All right. You can actually kind of cheat those things over like that. Now, you got to be careful. Don't go too far. And then once you get them cheated over, you can just come in here and like I'm going to insert a node here and I'm going to drag it over a little bit. And then and then I'm going to go right here. I'm going to put my cursor here and I'm going to hit I to insert a node there. And then you can just kind of drag them together. And once you make them touch like that, then you go back and do the same thing and weld it together. Now it's all one shape. So if you changed it to a cut or whatever, it would be one word. You see, I just kind of did away with that little area right there and welded that together, so to speak. But that's also, and you can play with the spacing. If you really don't want to mess with the words and start editing nodes, a lot of times you can actually come up and when you're in the text, sometimes and edit the spacing. I done convert it to a path now. I had to go all the way back. There we go. There we go.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just playing with different fonts will automatically join better than others.
Yeah.
So there are sites out there that allow you to add fonts. You just got to keep in mind whether they're for personal use or commercial use or whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I
So
will tell you too, if you have Adobe Photoshop on your computer and you have it downloaded and you have Adobe, any fonts that you unlock in Adobe, you can actually use in here too. So
mhm.
that's where I get a lot of mine. But there you go. Back to you, Steve. Oh, wait a minute. That's all me.
Mm.
But yeah, it's you just got to get creative. If you haven't learned how to do some slight editing on these nodes and stuff, it comes in really, really handy. So comes in really handy. But yeah, I mean, Brian, yeah, you could technically make a G into a Y, I guess, if you wanted to, or whichever. But there's several ways you can do it. I missed some comments. I'm trying to catch up.
One of them is the infrared head for Xtool D1 Pro worth the money.
I don't know. I got
So
lied to
I
on that
haven't.
one.
Well, okay. What I haven't priced that out yet, and neither of us have tried that out. But last I checked, isn't it? It's still a bit pricey, isn't it?
Yes, it's pricey.
Right. So we've got the infrared laser module right now on their website. Well, it's down to $497.51, and
But
that's
you've
for a
got to
D1 Pro.
sacrifice your machine to use it, though.
Uh,
So you'd have to buy like a 5-watt Pro or something if you didn't want to like
well, you could
keep
still
swapping
switch
the.
heads, right? I mean, you're swapping them between the two. My other argument on this is that it's a 2 watt, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting a large area for a very low optical power module. So to do anything even of like a business card size, it's going to take a while. So If you're doing this for fun, it's an inexpensive way to play around with metal. Um, um, but if you're doing it for business, I think looking at any one of the smaller fiber lasers um, are going to be the better way to go. You're going to be into it for at least a couple grand, but I would think you're going to be able to make that back pretty quick if you've got a business case for doing some metal work on it, and it's going to be much faster. You know, that would be
Yeah.
my argument on it. I just, unless you're doing really small things occasionally, then that $500 price point on the X tool, if you've already got the frame and everything, then it might be, worth it. But it's such a low power rating that it's very limited in what it can do.
Yeah, that's the thing with me is, I mean, there's some other machines out there that for another $500 that have the same power output as it does, that are galvos. You know, like the laser pecker, the original laser pecker? Isn't that thing like a 2.5 watt,
Hmm.
something like that? And it's like you can get one of those pretty reasonable right now. So before I would do that and be taking stuff apart, I would probably go that route because, like you said, you're not going to want to do a 400 by 400 engrave with that thing, regardless. So there's there's other options out there, in my opinion, that would make more sense. Because I'm all about, y'all know, I'm all about having multiple machines to do stuff with. And so if I've got my machine tied up, you know, doing something like that, that's not gonna benefit me.
So, Josh has an interesting question here. Are you able to make fonts or objects transition from light to dark without having to cut it apart and set each section as a different power, or without having to use an image? If you're looking at a gradient where it's very finely from a light to a dark, no, that would need to be an image. But if you're looking at having um, like individual objects go from a different darkness, you can break that up. Each object can have a scale setting to it, kind of like how you would do a test grid. But as far as like a gradient, like you're saying, light to top of the font to the bottom, no, that would need to be more of a raster kind of uh, gradient that's done as an image.
Yeah, you need to do that like in Lightburn or not Lightburn, Photoshop or something. Change the colors and just do a gradient set on it. Now, if you were, yeah, it doesn't help that you only have one color and that's burnt, and images burn so much slower than like graphics do. So,
Hmm.
can letter stencils be created using Lightroom? Letter stencils? I've done it. Yeah, yeah, you can do. There's actually what's the font that I found that's in mine? Is it Impact? I think it is. Makes a really good stencil for like stenciling things. And
There might even be a stencil font.
I
Um,
think there's Impact and there is. I think there is a stencil. But yeah, I've done it for like parking signs and stuff. I use poster board to do it. Yeah, Mark, the older ones, the like the three and the two, those are a little bit cheaper. But yeah, I actually got an email from them at one time, but never heard back. So
yeah, the impact is more like bold letters. I think the stencil one is actual, like your typical stencils you'd see.
oh, is it? Oh,
Hmm.
I didn't mean to turn that off. I was trying to hit the other button. Yeah, I couldn't remember what the name of it is. Yeah, Jack's got his big JPT. He's still bragging about being able to cut the floor out of his shop. Yeah, Brian. Pretty much it's burnt or not burnt, unless you do something wrong. Then it's like gone.
Um, so Mark asked a question earlier, but it looks like he already answered it, but maybe others are curious. He's looking at the OhmTech page and what do they mean by dual laser? So you can get machines that have dual tubes and dual laser heads. Generally, what they do is this is more of a production type thing where you have a larger working area, but it's effectively cut in half because the two heads are basically on the same gantry. Two tubes are shooting opposite directions, and they go through and will be cutting the same parts at the same time as it goes through those motions. So definitely be something if you're doing a lot of production work of the same items and need to ramp it up. It would be a possibility. Honestly, though, because of your reduced working size area and the extra complexity of it, at that point, I would just try to be looking at, you know, two lasers. Then you have more flexibility over having it run two different jobs and whatnot at the same time. But maybe size constraints or power and exhaust type things are constraining you. This might meet a need, but that's why they're out there.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna do something just for the live. I think I'm gonna start a new thing.
Oh,
Who was that asked me about the? Somebody asked me about my bottle opener thing back there. So I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something tonight that I hadn't done before. So let's see what we got here. Displays. I gotta figure out where the heck I put this thing. Um. Hold on. Gotta find it. But stand up displays. There we go. There we go. Got it in there. Give me just a second. I'm working with it.
so the funny thing is I had cut this file out while you're digging for that. I had cut this out on the longer machine before I'd left, and it's some of you may recognize this. It's a popular design that's been out there for a while. I don't remember. I got the files for my CNC machine years ago. Started cutting it out on the laser in smaller format, and then I see this cut out in larger, two or three different sizes at some of the random gift shops we stopped at varying prices, and of course varying sizes. But they were everywhere from cheaper than I could produce it at this size to 30, 60, $70 for slightly larger CNC cut. So just kind of a funny thing that you'll see with things that you can make that other people are taking advantage of. Although I did notice that in some of theirs they have these rib cages done differently, so I probably have these out of order. But
All right. So whoever was asking, there's that stand that bottle opener. That's the burn file for that stand up sign with the magnets. Uh, but if I see it on Etsy, somebody else is selling it. I'm gonna be upset. But there you go.
hold on, let me post that really quick.
Yeah. If I see my design, I'm gonna be upset. But that's it right there. So grab it while you can, because I'm taking that guy down here in a little bit. I'm just doing it for you guys because y'all thought enough to come check me and Steve out. So I'll let you have that one. I haven't put it on there yet. I was going. I don't really like putting stuff because those are simple designs that I really, I guess if people want it, I could put it out there. But a lot of times I'm just like, that's too simple. Nobody's gonna want to buy that. So I don't. A lot of times I don't put them on there. Oh, I probably
Yeah,
should.
I've shared some of mine in video links. I'll if it's super basic, I've tried to put that down. Just like here, have it, play with it. Especially when they're like test files for. I think I did that for like with a curve test and other things. I try to throw those out there, but then
Yeah.
there's the other people for some of the things that are useful that they might not watch the videos, but they're searching on Etsy for something. Like I did that with the coaster holder. Sometimes takes a little bit of time, and I'm not making a killing off those, but that just kind of helps make up for the time and effort there. So
Yeah.
that's
Well,
nice of you to share that.
well, like I said, it's you're gonna have to download it. That's a Google. It's taking you to Google Drive. When you click the link, it's probably just gonna when you look at it, it's a Lightburn file. So unless you download it and then open it in Lightburn, it's your browser's not going to recognize the file type. So just download it from Google Drive. I guess I could have zipped it up. It would have made it look a little different. Uh, but
Oh yeah,
yeah, but you should be able to download it though, and then
yeah,
it'll
yeah. Um,
yeah. Google doesn't know what Lightburn 2 files are. So if unless you download it, once you download it, it should pop up a Lightburn file once Windows has access to it. But the browser is not going to recognize the file type. So, but that's the little bottle opener one. It's just, guys, it's basically just a box that I took and wrecked it and used parts of the box to you can what? No problem. Did you figure out how to make it work, Steve?
yeah, I was able to download it, and I just put it into my chat as well in case people are watching from my stream. It'll bring
Yeah.
up a bunch of text, but there should be a download option towards the top.
Yeah, that's
That
Google, because Google
yep.
that's not one of the file extensions that is supported by Google Preview. So it's gonna just display it basically in hex. But once you download it in your computer, you open it in your window in your uh, file explorer, then your computer will recognize it if it has Lightburn on it. If your computer don't have Lightburn on it, it's not gonna know what it is anyway. Not likely, because it doesn't have a program to open it with. Yeah, you gotta download first. That's why I normally zip the files when I put them on Etsy, but I didn't plan on putting that one on Etsy really, so I didn't zip it. Because I have people all the time call me, "Hey, I downloaded this file, but it's just some kind of .zip file. I don't know what to do with it." And I'm like, "Oh, here we go." But yeah, that's all that is I just took a box and wrecked it and then used pieces of it to make a little stand up. It's not that complicated. Oh, I had to make several today. Well, I didn't know if you were on the computer that you use to work your your laser there with. Phil Knock. I'm terrible with names, guys. But yeah, but just hey, just give me a thumbs up for that. You know, a like, share, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. But but yeah, a lot of those files like that, and I even thought about trying to have it to where you know because I do use like when I first started putting my files out there for my jigs and stuff, people were asking for them and they were like, "Hey, I don't mind paying," and they wanted to pay me through PayPal and all this, and so that's why I started Etsy. But you know, I didn't think anybody would want to buy stuff like that, but I guess if you're especially if you're new, because when I was new, I was buying some files. So I guess now that I've kind of looked back at it, it's like it is a lot easier to just drop $3 or $4 than I try to figure that out. Especially in the early days. I think Brian's got a question. Or no, Brian's answering a
No,
question.
there's. I was just trying to find it. Yeah. So Mark's asking, what are the advantages of using offset fill versus flood fill?
That's the typical IT question. It depends.
Stealing my line.
No, they taught me that. They taught me that when I went and got my in IT. Everything depends.
It does.
Well, go ahead and
Um,
explain it there, sir. I know you're dying to.
I don't know that I'm dying to, but so it's it's in the pattern that the laser is going to move. So if you think about, the flood fill basically stopping or going from bottom to top generally and filling in the gaps. Well, actually, there's more three types because there's the straight across fill everything at once, which would literally be bottom, top, bottom, or whatever direction it goes. Um, Flood fill will try to fill larger sections in one from one direction, but offset basically is going to take the outline and work its way in, much as like a CNC router would start on the outside and go in, or inside and go out. And so it'll have a slightly different effect on the look, having the beam move around in various directions versus the same direction the whole time. It can sometimes save time, but it also will have a slightly different look. You can sometimes get an idea of that in your preview mode. by just selecting your object and changing the way it fills, looking at your preview to see how it does. But a lot of that comes down to actually doing a test with the material and the type of object or lettering that you're wanting to play with. So it comes down to kind of it's both can be maybe a time difference, but also a look difference that you might want to go for. It can sometimes
He's
have
saying he doesn't. He's not getting the flood feel, but I've got it pulled up if you want to. He said he's only got feel and offset feel.
okay. You gonna
So
demo it?
sure, I'll show you where it's at. It's hiding. Here's your feel and offset feel right here. All right, go over here to advanced. There's your flood feel. The one thing that you will notice is with flood feel, when you go in and you preview something, if you turn on the traverse lines, you'll see how the machine is going to go about the different areas. So depending on the design, like Steve said, sometimes it can have an adverse look to your design. Let's see, turn off flood fill. See that? See how the lines are going with the text, so to speak. So it just changes. It changes the way the laser moves a lot of times. But you can change your time. You can get different times, but you just got to play with that and figure out what works for you under the situation that you're trying to engrave, what the look you're going for is. But it's actually in the advanced tab back here. That's where you find that. But you only have that option on feel. There you go. That's it. Whoa, big me. There we go. Uh,
So, Brian, this is going to depend on your laser module. Um, so a lot of them recently have been a little more recessed, and they make it harder to get at the plug. But anytime that you do have access to that plug, I like to take a very small flat-headed screwdriver, and this is going to be the time that I can't find one. Um, and try to usually those plugs have just little tabs to the side that you can pop up on. So I try to just pop up on the plug rather than on the wires itself, using those tabs off the side. Um, and yeah, like you say, with the Acer P20, it's really down there. It's hard to pull on the sides. So when you have those, sometimes you don't have a huge choice but to kind of pull in the wires. I would say try to be as gentle as possible, and then double check your plug every so often to make sure things aren't coming out. Or if at all possible, if you can get yourself some heavier heat shrink that can go around the plug as well, and give yourself about an inch or so, just so that you can get that heat shrink around the top of the plug and then wrapped around the cables. That way you're pulling more on the heat shrink, which is pulling on the plug rather than the wires. That would be a bit of a mod to try to do, but that's going to take some larger heat shrink that you might not have uh, available to. But yeah, that's one of I've pointed that out in a couple of reviews where they really bury that in there. And even the same thing with pushing it in, I usually try to take a very small hobby size screwdriver and push down on the plug as I'm putting it in. Just the less you're putting strain on those wires, the less likely they're gonna break.
yeah, I wish they would. I wish they would get away from maybe that type of connector, and go with something that's a little more, like you said, real robust. I know they're trying to keep it flexible. They don't want it sticking way up in the air, but you would think they would come up and with a way of doing that a little better.
Hmm.
Do, 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 do. What Steve said. Yeah, I've some of the lasers I have, you can actually take like some Gorilla Tape and make a little tab for yourself. But the Acer, the way it goes down in that hole, there's really nowhere you can adhere tape to it, unless you used like, I mean, you could create you a little skirt with Gorilla Tape and include the wires and have like a little tab sticking up. I mean, you could do that and give you a little handle. Uh, That way, at least it would make sure you pull on that wires evenly and not one particular wire gets more tension than the others. But I wish they would make them kind of like a 3.5 millimeter plug or something like that, where you could just snap it in there and boom, it's done.
Yeah.
And be
As
right back.
as far as the type, I believe they're a type of JST connector. I can't remember the exact name or model number of them, but they're like a 6-pin JST, I believe, on most of them. So that'd be yeah. I mean, you could, if you're good with soldering, you could definitely make an adapter kind of thing. There again, you just want to make sure that you're getting the pin out the same and that you're, making sure they're insulated. The one thing that it would really help is that if they would use more of a silicone-based flexible wire, they use really stiff wire in a lot of these, and they're going to get prone to breaking over time. I usually in any of my RC applications, I've made a lot of my own wires and extensions, and I make sure I have a nice supply of silicone flexible wire, and that makes a big difference. Yeah, JST Type H, you're right. Yeah, Chris had it there. It's um, you can find a lot of them on Amazon. Otherwise, DigiKey is another place that sells the connectors and cables and such. So definitely, if you're going to be maintaining the machines over time, or you want to do some playing, it's good to have some of those.
I was trying to distract you. My bad. I just walked in and noticed that little Chihuahua with the tag. I'm pretty proud of that one, guys. I've got tomorrow off, so I'm going to be out here doing some creating tomorrow as well. So I get a holiday. My wife doesn't get it. She's a little mad.
Well, Carl and I have it off too, so
Well, what you going to be working on tomorrow then?
got to try to finish up that longer review. So
Ah, what is that box type bottle opener display? Huh? You talking about right there? That's the bottle opener display right there. It uses magnets to hold the bottle openers in place. That way I can easily restock. And it's kind of low profile. Um, this is actually one I made for my pens. And it has a little storage compartment for the refills under the bottom. And I just kind of made that. This is actually two different versions of my display, but it worked out to where I was able to make them stackable, so I could put those out there. And then of course, if I can get it out, I made this guy for my dog tags, and I wanted to try to keep it kind of clean and neat. So the way that it works is on the back, the dog tags actually go into dowels. I cut the holes in for the dowels in the front, and then just kind of drove them in from the back and used it to hold the chains. So those turned out pretty good. They're kind of they're really thick stainless steel. I was afraid it wasn't going to mark them, but it actually turned out looking pretty nice. They're kind of subdued, but I like them. But yeah, that's all my junk I made this week, or this weekend, or yesterday, today. Yep. What is your YouTube channel? Who's he talking to? Me or you?
well, if he's watching on you,
Vintage's Workshop?
I think he's coming from your channel, so might be asking
okay.
about mine.
He must be asking about you. I can't ever remember. It shows them in different colors, man. I'm half colorblind anyway.
Let's see here. Put that in there. That would be
Vintage's Workshop.
Yep, that would be my channel, and appreciate anyone that wants to come over from Clacks that hasn't checked me out. Do a lot of the same stuff, but sometimes do a little more technical dive on my reviews, and but also throw in some practical some how-to with each one, and then some fun project videos as well. And if you go way back, it goes into my other hobbies of general woodworking, but then a lot into RC models as well. So, which is kind of how I got started in the laser and CNC world, is through my love of model aviation and needing to create parts and pieces for that.
Hey, whatever you do, don't ask him about real airplanes. Don't do that.
I don't think I have.
Don't
Well,
ask him
I've
about
got the
real
one.
airplanes.
Sad. I don't have too many down here to be offended by that.
Yeah, I'm half colorblind, Brian. I see some colors, I can't see others. Actually, I just don't ever pay any attention. Yeah, well, Steve's definitely more technical than I am. He gets into the weeds on that stuff a lot. Guys, I just kind of got a redneck flair to it. Yeah, I guess I could do one on Steve, but I thought everybody that watches me already watches Steve. That was kind of the thing. Uh, but he'd probably get mad at me because I know Brian. I went by Brian's shop the other day after we did the Clack Attack, and he was like, "Dude," he's like, "My phone, it wouldn't quit vibrating. It wouldn't quit going off." But maybe I used to do that to me. But hey, he wound up selling me a $80 blade. So he come out pretty good because I stopped by to tell him hey, and so I wound up leaving with this guy, which is wicked. So it's not very sharp though. I did notice earlier I was cutting some. It's good for opening boxes, but it's not very good for cutting. So I've got to put an edge on it. This is not really made for cutting.
Not sure how many states it's legal in either.
All 50, bro. All 50.
No, I don't think so.
It's illegal in this one.
Well, I
Hey, I have been trying my best to figure out what kind of material this is. It feels like rubber. I want to engrave this thing so bad, but
oh,
it feels like rubber, and I'm
yeah,
afraid it's going to make a mess.
yeah. I think I had one similar to that, but yeah, sometime I'll have to tell you about a story about going to Canada.
Going to Canada?
Yeah.
Well, that's no good. You going to Canada already?
No, this is back.
But no, this is not a.
This is back in high school.
This is not a switchblade by the law. See, watch what happens. If it hits something, watch what happens.
So it's just spring assisted.
That's right.
Okay.
So it is legal.
Gotcha.
See? Spring assisted, it is not a switchblade. It will not come out. If you put it up somebody's back and stick them with it, they're just going to feel a little prick. But yeah, it's a cool little blade to have though. But no, it's not restricted. I asked Brian when I bought it, I'm like, hey, is this a setup or what? And he's like, no, it's legal. And he did the demonstration to show me it's spring assisted. It is not a switchblade. So there we go. There's that. But yeah, if you have subscribed to my channel, then by all means, please go subscribe to Steve. Brian will love you for it. But Dave has more technology. Seems weird. Well, now, Brian, as far as I love technology. I like gadgets. I think we share the love for gadgets, but Steve is just more analytical in his explanation of things. I spent 20 years training police officers, so I have learned how to take complex things and try to explain them to people who maybe don't understand the complex things. Even though I know a lot of the ins and outs, I don't necessarily express it because I have done IT for a police department for 15 years now, and IT related stuff, and you can't go in there talking IT to police officers and expect them to know what the heck you're talking about. So I try to speak more in layman's terms. And Steve is all about the numbers and the amps and the inputs and the outputs. I just want to see how good it'll burn. That's all I care. Does it work? Is it consistent? And go.
Well, yeah, I think to Brian's statement. I don't think that Dave has more technology than I do. He just he plays with it more uh, in everything. Um, I work IT, although I'm more in management and such. But that's my day job, and when I get home, I just I kind of want to decompress from technology a bit, which is funny because I play with these machines. But this is more hobby stuff, so I do I do what I want to, but I don't overcomplicate it if I don't have to. Um, but you know that so I would say we're very similar in the things we play with. I mean, I've got a Stream Deck. I just don't always have it set up because I'm also moving it from down here to my other computer in the office to out in the shop. And as Clack knows, that gets kind of tiring moving things around all the time. So I don't always set it up as well. We both have kind of the same primary recording camera. He's bought a couple different webcams. I've bought a couple different webcams and such. Um, so I don't think there's necessarily a big difference there. It's just kind of how we apply it and how we use it. So
Well, and since I've in your defense too, since I got the air conditioning out here, I've got all my streaming stuff set up and it never moves. Like, and that's why I've been doing videos using the computer. Steve is still where I was a while back too, because you having to pack up your laptop and your camera, and you have to come out to the shop and you have to set everything up and connect it, and then if you don't get everything right, it winds up messing up the stream. So we suffered from that a lot on my behalf because I would get set up and everything was working great, and then something would happen and it wouldn't work. So now luckily I've got the Clack Shack command set up over here, and it works. It works a lot better this way because I don't have to drag out cameras and connect them. And if I do connect them, the computer has been sitting here, and it goes back to work. So, and Steve has two workshops. So you know, the Clack Shack is pretty much my only spot. If I go in the house try to run a laser in the house, the wife's going to run me out of there. I have the Clack Shack. That is it. Steve has half of his stuff in the basement, half of his stuff in the shop, and that complicates things as well. Now, I do have one more shop that y'all don't see, which is the sawmill, but y'all don't see it very often. But there's no electricity up there unless you bring a generator because it's up in the woods. So, but yeah, I don't know what's up with the audio. It's got to be something with the streaming software. I'm doing the same thing I've been doing every night. Maybe I could just put it on a different camera.
Ron, I'm glad they arrived and they're working well for you. So it's always good to hear that those lenses work for people. And yeah, a clean lens can do a lot for combating some issues that maybe creep in because they either creep in really quickly or slowly. So
I don't guess I got my audio settings wrong here. No, audio input is my wavelength stream.
well, Budget, thanks for stopping by. Hope to see you again.
No, I can't go up north in the winter. Mm-mm. No, me and winter don't get along good, guys. Me and summer are getting to where we don't get along real good either. So I kind of like it 72 to 73. That's right there.
Well, that was what was so nice about being in the Black Hills this last week is, um, if anything, it was a little on the cool side. But we didn't really have any hot days. I think it maybe creeped up to 80 one day, but we were able to open up the windows at night, cool the place down, drive around. I mean, I had to wear a jacket a couple days. That it and yeah, I'd rather fall time weather up here is my favorite. I like that cooler weather.
Yeah, it's getting to where it's ridiculously hot down here, and I'm not crazy about it. But
Yeah, well, they're talking. It's gonna be warm up here again too. It'll be in the 90s. So, but yeah, Josh. So Technically, well, so the problem that you'd have is unless you have a motorized Z-axis, it wouldn't work very well. So on maybe some of the newer lasers, you could work with that. Um, but the frame really wasn't meant for it. So your feed rates would have to be really small and slow, as to not get out of, to force it out of whack, because you do have more of those side forces from moving that bit through the material. Um, there are a number of machines like the Snapmaker that it's supposed to be a 3D printer, a CNC router, and a laser. Even my Stepcraft CNC has uh, modules for changing it to them. But that gets into that jack of all trades, master of none territory, where it might do one really well and can kind of do the others, or it does none of them really well, but kind of does all of them. I just look at it at that point of, if you're playing around to see can you do it from a, this would be kind of cool technically to make it work. Sure, you can, but is it effective at doing it? There's probably easier ways to do it. So
Yep. Yeah, that doesn't because if the steppers aren't enough, like you said, you're going to start. It's going to put pressures in places that it wouldn't be accustomed to having pressures. I think. Oh, which if things go well, maybe we'll have a little small CNC that some of us that don't have thousands of dollars to drop can afford to get into if things go well for me. The X2 40 watt. What about you, Steve?
uh no, they had talked with me about one, but that was before I had a pro model laser. And so, because you have to have the pro frame to upgrade to the 40 watt, they said, all right, well, let's get you swapped out for some of that stuff. And I haven't heard back from them on the 40 watt. And playing with some of the other 30s and 36s, has been interesting. It'd be an interesting test between the two to see, are you truly getting an increase in power over, say, the 830 from Atom Stack, or the this I've got the 8 or 836 now to test to see what we're getting there. But yeah, the manufacturers are just kind of making kind of leaps over each other with these powers, and we'll kind of see where it settles down from there.
Well, who was it that said that? Talking about the CNCs are too expensive.
Josh.
Well, Josh, there's a chance, and like I said, I haven't got to try the thing out yet, but there is a machine that I've been asked to look at, and it is it has potential. It's the Genmitsu fourth axis. It's got four axes total because it comes with a rotary, but it's a Genmitsu. I've never heard of them before. Steve was actually the first person that I heard talk about one of these things, and the price is not that expensive. So I'm looking at possibly getting one of those. So I'm not going to say I'm getting it yet because it hasn't showed up, but there is a chance that I may be getting one.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's the
the
4040 Pro.
yeah by Genbitsu or Sane Smart. So this is a
Yeah.
4040, which is a 400 by 400 millimeters machine. So it's going to be very similar in working area to our typical diode lasers, which is hopefully attractive to people to get their feet wet with a CNC router without having a huge footprint. And the price is right around six to $700, depending on accessories and sale. Um, and it looks like a pretty decent machine that it's the least expensive machine that I feel is at least decent. There are some smaller ones that I think are great for teaching you the technical workings of them, but they're just so small that I don't know that they're very effective for anything. This one I think you could actually start to be effective with on the scale of what we're used to working with our diode lasers.
But yeah, they this deal is actually looking like it may actually pan out for me. Uh, because they have they've actually sent me an email back wanting to know if I'd be interested in the fourth axis and the offline controller to go with it. So, and then a friend of mine told me I needed to get the trim router collar also. So,
Yeah, it's a pretty basic accessory. I don't think it costs too much. It's a $30 accessory. It's a 65 to 69 diameter that allows you to use the Makita trim router, the DeWalt trim router, um, which is going to be probably a little bit better than their included little brushed spindle thing. So yeah, that'll be exciting to see you kind of get that way. The step up from there. I personally, I've run 4 or 5 CNC machines, CNC routers and such, um, starting with kind of a home built, and then I've got a open builds Ox style machine. I've got a Stepcraft D600, one of their Gen 2 machines. I had another one that was kind of geared towards the model airplane group, but it also had a hot wire. But mine right now is the Onefinity machine, and I think for someone who's really wanting to get into a quality hobbyist grade machine that can put out some pretty good work and it isn't difficult to put together or operate, that is a pretty good deal for the rails they have on there, the ball screws they have on there. It's a very sturdy machine and very simple to put together and start working with. The gotcha on it is software for it is not cheap. You either get into some very crude open source stuff, or you're looking at a subscription based thing with some of the things like Carveco, or if you're getting into VCarve from Vectric, unless you want to just be limited to 24 inches square, their pro version is like $700 for the software. So it's a bit of an investment to get into some of that software, and that can be a bit of a gotcha after dropping down $2,000 to $3,000 for the machine, and then some. You got to get your end mills, bits. You're probably working with something for dust collection. There's a lot of kind of and this and this and this that kind of add up with it. So,
well, good news is I already got dust extraction set up over there.
well, it depends on how well it works. Some people use shop vac stuff. Some people use a 4-inch dust extractor. Kind of depends on what you're working with and such. But yeah, there's
Well, I got the wind dust extraction over there. It pulls the dust out of that 13-inch planer. It ought to work for a CNC. I would
yeah.
imagine.
If you're hooking it straight up to it, yeah, that should be pretty good. So
I can figure it out. Somebody's wanting settings off of P20, so I'm going to make it get loud for a minute because I can't read my controller settings without it on.
um,
Uh, Unless you've got yours handy.
no, I don't have mine. Mine's out in the other shop. Victor, as far as how hard is it to run a CNC, so setting up the files and such is similar, but then you're dealing with not only pathing, but you're dealing with depth, and then for every single bit, you have to kind of work within its chip load. So you're trying to figure out your feed and your both your spindle speed and your feed rate of your moving through your material. So there's some, and you can break bits. You also have to worry about material hold down so much more. So there's a little more complexity to it, but there's a lot of things that kind of cross over from it. So um, I started out with it. So I went from CNC machine routers to CNC lasers. So I kind of had the reverse going for me, but there's a lot of content and information out there, and Clack's hopefully getting one. I'm hopefully going to be able to start getting more content out on using the Winfinity and mixing it with lasers as well. So hopefully we'll be able to be something of a resource there as well. Um, so it's one of those things you just got to do some research and then not be afraid to play a little bit. But knowing what you need to be, where and how you need to be safe is probably the most important thing there.
Yeah. Well, here's my settings for you. I think you said X. You said X and Y acceleration. The X acceleration on mine is set to 1,000. And the Y acceleration is also set to 1,000. So, I mean, I don't know. If you set it to 2,000, I mean, I don't. If you don't have any adverse effects, I guess you're okay. But mine's set to 1,000 on both the X and the Y acceleration. And that's on my Acer P20. So, I hope that helps you. Or whoever that was that DJs. Yeah, the default is 1,000 apparently. I don't think I changed that any because it was doing a good job the way it was. So, there you go. Got that handle. Man, that top monitor looks so much better than the bottom. Turn that back off. Y'all be hollering at me saying it's loud. But yeah, I am surely hoping that I can get me one of those machines. That would be really, really nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do. I mean, there are things that you can do with either a laser or a CNC router, but there are things that a router's better at. There's things that a laser's better at. So it's nice being able to have um, both tools in at your disposal. But for some things you can get by with one or the other. Um, but like I say, it's not required. But when you have a need for it or have it available to you, it definitely opens up some opportunity.
Yes. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I like getting new machines and being able to expand what I got going on. Norbert, I don't know if it's just on Facebook or if it's on just on YouTube. I don't know what's causing it. There's nothing going on here that should be causing it. It's got to be something to do with the internet, or not necessarily the internet, but the software.
Yeah, it's probably the on YouTube or Facebook or both end. Because in my preview, you've been fine all night.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I mean, it's just stepping out on a limb, but I don't think it's on my end because I'm looking at every system on my machine, and I haven't changed anything since the last live I did, which was the other night when you were on your trip. I haven't changed any settings, so. Uh, but yeah, and I'll show you this. And I do have like 5 cameras and 2 microphones and a set of headsets and all that. I do have a whole bunch of stuff going. But as you can see right here, this computer is not struggling at all. I'm running 25% on my CPU, and I'm only using 8 out of 64 gigs of my RAM. So I think I'm doing pretty well. My Ethernet and my graphics card are both performing well within the standard. So yeah, not thinking it's a computer issue. It's got to be some kind of encoding issue on the backside. I love this machine. It's awesome. I know what you're thinking, Steve. 64 gigs of RAM and a GTI card.
Uh,
Your nerd showing.
I remember what's on this computer. Yeah, this is an old one.
Yeah, this one's a beast. It is a beast now. Like I said, I got 64 gigs of RAM. It's got 5 hard drives in a RAID, uh, which which it was not designed to be a YouTube computer. It was designed to do something much different.
Yep.
All
Well,
right, questions, comments, concerns. We've crossed the 2 hour mark, so it could be any minute that me or Steve one has to go take our Geritol and go to bed. But yeah, the aliens. Y'all like my little alien? What's that? I got y'all some I got some colorful stuff in there too. I figured out how to do a slideshow on my TV. but I didn't know when I put my slides in on this TV, it actually affects my daughter's TV in her room. So, so, so she was like, she said that when her TV, like, she leaves it on like too long, it starts scrolling Clack Shack logos and stuff. So I put the alien on there too. But yeah. Mike, I snugged my lenses down. I'm running Steve's lenses. By the way, I'm probably gonna need to get another pack from you. I've still got a moisture problem.
Well,
But
he's talking about maybe the focal lens. Uh,
oh, the focal
I'm,
lens. Oh, never mind.
yeah, that's way different.
That's a whole. Yeah, that's a whole nother ball game.
Um, I haven't taken a deeper look at that. So if it's truly the focal lens, and that's underneath the brass cap you unscrew, and it's usually, I thought it was held in by another brass ring, but if it's not, ideally if you can get a little bit of just silicone around the ring of it to wherever it's sitting in, that would probably be the best. But you're going to want to be very careful to not get it on the center part of that lens. You want to get it on just the outside, and obviously not touch either side with your oily hands. You want to use gloves on that. But I haven't taken mine apart, haven't needed to. I haven't really wanted to dig that deep to really see how it's fixed in the first place. So,
Yeah, I haven't went in there. I've shined a light in there and looked, but I haven't went up in there and messed with that. It says when he turns his laser on, it kills all his wireless stuff like cordless mouse and keyboard. Any idea what is a possible solution? That's weird. That sounds like some mixed up drivers.
um,
Or either USB power. Maybe it's USB power.
yeah,
Eco management.
yeah. If it's overkilling the, do you have a lot of other? Is it like a dongle that's on the USB port, and you have too many of them? Um, if so, maybe getting a powered USB hub would help.
Yep. I bet that's what it is. I bet it's pulling. He's probably got too much stuff running off the USB, and the motherboard can't handle the output. So yeah, my recommendation would be get a true powered USB port, and plug everything into it, and take the pressure off of that USB port that feeds the hub. That would be my recommendation. So, I've actually got a powered USB hub over there on that pole right there that I run everything off of on the table. This USB 3 with power.
Yeah, I've got one off my computer here so that I can run it back to the laser there. Usually powers this camera here too pretty well, but since I got the non-frying power adapter, I just use that.
Of course, this computer does have 16 USB ports on it. It's got 5 in the front and like 11 in the back, I think. So I don't have any hubs over here anywhere. I got all this stuff powered straight into it. But well, all right, guys, y'all are killing me here. I'm finna run out of stuff to talk about, and but if you hadn't already, check out the Laser Engraving channel, Laser Engraving Community, our group that we frequent, myself and Steve. And how about the guy that built the castle or whatever that was?
Yeah.
That guy's got way more time than I got. That was nice. But if you haven't already, go check out the page. You do have to answer questions to participate in the page, and we're just trying to keep the bots out of there and the spam. We had a little wave of it for a while, but it seems to have cleaned up pretty soon here recently. So that's good. But if you haven't, also, please follow, like, subscribe. Go, go check out Steve's channel. I don't think we need to do a full blown clack attack on Steve, but I mean, if we need to, I guess we could. But I honestly thought all of our people crossed over, so I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. We'll have to see.
well, I think the ones that really watch us closely, they're they've got both of us on radar and such. But yeah, join the Facebook group. We post things there, and you can also catch things like Jack finding fossils in his yard and see what that's all about. Hint:
Finding
it's a
fossils.
laser engraved rock. So go check out his video on that fun stuff. Which we like seeing that, people sharing kind of what they're doing, sharing their videos, but also, you know, I know Jack is in there helping out quite a bit, answering questions. So it's a good way to share what you're working on, get some feedback from people that are in the similar vein of work and such. So, but yeah, always appreciate anyone that wants to come to our individual channels as well.
Mm. Steve said last week he found out you had an undercover YouTube channel.
Uh, yeah, Brian, I found it again, and so it's probably not as visible as it used to be.
So did you get rid of it? You had you because I thought maybe somebody was pretending to be you. I didn't know.
I was concerned about that as well, but it was when I was setting up some Google stuff. Sometimes they automatically create some things, and then before I got it all aligned, couple of early tests had snuck over there. Of one was a SketchUp design, kind of a 3D video preview, and then the other was just resawing some wood or something like that. So, but yeah,
Brian said he was subscriber number 7.
yeah. Well, I was getting rich off of that one, so.
Yeah.
But
Well, now but if y'all haven't, like I said, we do appreciate it, and we've got some new gear coming out. Steve's got a shop full of stuff he hasn't opened yet, so there should be some of that. But guys, I try, especially I try to make sure it's not all I do. So if you ever see me doing those videos about these machines, just understand I'm trying to help you guys out, learn more about them, find out what's out there. If you get tired of seeing them, just skip that one and just hang around till the next one comes out, because I promise you I'll be doing something creative within a couple of videos of that. So,
yeah, and
uh,
I've got some material stuff that is not necessarily your normal stuff that either people have commented on or I've come across that I want to do some testing on. That'll hopefully not be machine specific. So we definitely want to do more of that content on each of our channels. So some of those we pull from ideas here or comments in other videos. So definitely keep them coming, because that's the content we want to create. That's fun for ourselves, but also fun for things that you guys are curious at and that maybe we can help out with. So
oh yeah, because you don't want us to get desperate for a video, because then we'll just do something dumb like just random small things that you can engrave.
yes, Brian,
But
I hear you on the LED one, and it's I actually have a list over here, and on that list I have things such as lens cleaning and LED lights and such. So it's on my list. I promise. Maybe I'll
you
stay.
need to get to work.
I know I need to stop driving across the country. I think by last count, I've this first half of this year, I've driven into or through at least 15 or 16 different states. So I need to stay put for a little while.
Yeah, you better get caught up on some work, because you're gonna get so far behind that you'll never get caught up.
Well,
But thanks for coming, guys, and we'll see y'all next Sunday, if not before. Because like I said, I will be here all day tomorrow, so you don't ever know. I may walk over here and hit the go live button. You never know. See you guys.
all right, we'll see you.